Hi, I'm Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer. Welcome to this episode of Wellness by Design, where we are looking into conscious self healing, how to get your mind on board to help you heal. So, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what is consciousness. When I'm saying using consciousness for self healing, what exactly is it we're talking about? And if you can't put your finger on what consciousness is, you're not the only one because it's been debated over the years, and philosophy and science and different spirituality and religion and neuroscience and so on. People ponder, like, does it sit in our brain, or is it somewhere outside of our brain? So there's a lot of debate about it, but here's a simplified definition for you. Consciousness is the subjective experience of awareness, encompassing the ability to perceive, interpret, and respond to stimuli, both internally, like your thoughts and emotions, and externally, such as your environment. So, this definition acknowledges that consciousness involves more than just being awake or alert. It involves a certain level of self awareness and the capacity for introspection, to be aware that you are aware. That is really the key of consciousness. So, it allows us to form beliefs, make decisions, engage and interact with the world, and also kind of get in tune with ourselves in a cognitive and emotional process. So let's talk about consciousness and how consciousness, the evidence we have of consciousness affecting our biology. Um, so, one way we see this is with the placebo effect. And I know if you've been listening to Wellness by Design for a while, you've heard me talk about the placebo effect. But in case this is your first time, I want to kind of bring it right back to that because when our mind is looking for evidence, we need to know just the way our minds are and our society is. We're in a very materialistic world. And so we need to look for evidence. And so that's what the placebo effect can give us. So, first of all, the definition of the placebo effect, it's the phenomenon where a patient experiences improvement in symptoms or health outcomes after receiving a treatment that is either inactive or inert, meaning it has no therapeutic effect on the condition being treated. This improvement occurs solely due to the patient's belief in the treatment's efficacy. So, in other words, their belief that the treatment will work, rather than any physiological or pharmacological action of the treatment itself. So, so it's the person has a response, and a positive response to a treatment, even though they're not getting the actual treatment. Now, obviously, the best way to evaluate this is with a double blind study. So, a lot of times, clinical trials will be done with a double blind study, meaning that neither the patient, they always have a placebo, like an inert, because they have to compare the efficacy of whatever they're testing against something, which is nothing. And so, the best double blind is when neither the patient nor the practitioner is aware of whether the treatment is an inert treatment or not. That's the best if that can be done. So here are some examples where we've seen this. And my area of specialty is helping people with chronic pain. And there's a lot of evidence of a very strong placebo effect with pain medications. And I want to first of all start off by saying that this doesn't mean that the pain is in your head, okay, that you're making it up. It means that your body is creating a biological, like a chemical, neurological response, which has a reduction in pain, even though you're not receiving any treatment. And I just want you to see that as being very hopeful because it shows the power of your mind, right? So, in pain relief medication, in studies testing pain relief medications, some participants may be given a placebo, like a sugar pill or an inactive substance, instead of the actual medication. Despite not receiving any active drugs, some patients in the placebo group may report a reduction in pain symptoms. So, what we know from this, it demonstrates the power of the placebo effect and meta analysis of pain trials. So, a meta analysis is a study that looks at many, many other studies. Okay, so it combines the results of many studies. So it's kind of like a really high level evaluation of different studies. So meta-analysis say that the placebo effect contributes around 30 to 40% of the observed pain reduction in clinical trials. It varies a lot, of course, depending on a specific study and the patient population, but 30 to 40%. And that's people who are receiving a treatment and it's actually an inert thing, but they're having a positive response as if they had taken the medication. Another place where we see this, so that's pain relief medications. Another place we see this with is with antidepressants. So placebo effects are commonly observed in clinical trials with antidepressants. It's even higher, up to 50% for antidepressants. And a lot of times, the placebo effect is as good as the treatment. Like, in other words, there's no difference between patient taking a placebo and patient taking the medication. The positive effect is that you don't have the side effects. Although some people can still have side effects if they're told that there's certain side effects. That's also the power of the mind. Now, we know about this in clinical trials, right? We've heard about the placebo effect, and people often like write it off. Oh, that's just the placebo effect. But I think it's real powerful evidence of the power of our mind affecting our biology. Now, here's another one that really blew my mind when I first heard it, and that is knee surgery. So, well, they've done this with different surgeries, but this knee surgery in particular, this was a study conducted by Dr. Bruce Moseley, published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2002. So they compared the outcomes of arthroscopic knee surgery um, for arthritis with a sham surgery. Okay, so it's actual knee surgery, and they compared it with a sham surgery. So in other words, the patients, everything about them, the surgery was the same. In fact, they went under anesthetic, an incision was made, but in the sham surgery, nothing was done in the surgery. Incision was made, and then it was sewn up again. And so the patients were not aware of that they did not have the surgery. And what they found is that patients who underwent the sham surgery reported similar improvements in pain and function as those who received the actual surgery. So this is really powerful evidence of the placebo effect. So the reason why I wanted to share these with you, as I said before, is because uh, shifting beliefs. Our beliefs are so powerful, and we've grown up in this paradigm where we kind of don't believe that. We've had so much belief in the power of a pill and also in the power of surgery that even if we've got a placebo, we still believe that it's working, right? That's the power of your mind. So once again, I want to stress this does not mean that the people weren't experiencing real pain. They were experiencing real pain, but our brain is a player in our perception of pain. Our brain is also a player in running, well, it does run our body through the nervous system. It runs the body. And so our brain can change the chemistry and the biology of our body, changing our perception of pain, actually can create healing, right? Lots of times, healing is just, the body is not paying attention to a particular area. And through doing the surgery or through this placebo effect, the mind goes, oh, okay, we're focusing on that. But I also want to say that other factors are at play as well. So, and as with any doctor or practitioner patient, the relationship is going to be really affect outcomes. So whether it's a placebo or not, that will affect outcomes. The person's belief in the competency of the practitioner plays a role in outcomes. The person's the practitioner's belief and what they say about the results has an effect on the person's result and response, their biological response to surgery or treatment. So, isn't that interesting? If a doctor, for example, said, I'm going to give you this medication and I'm not sure if it's going to work, it might work, that will have an effect on how the person responds to it compared to the doctor saying, I have complete confidence this medication works all the time, 100% of the time. You're going to have you're going to respond to this. That's going to change the person's outcome. So let's just move forward now. I hope I've done a good job convincing you that the placebo effect, in other words, the power of our mind to influence our biology and chemistry in the body, is real. We know in clinical trials it works anywhere from, for pain, 30 to 40% of the time, for antidepressants, 30 to 50% of the time. It does work. And so, what if we really harnessed that power? What if we believed in our own power and then did practices to really hone those skills, target those skills, and focus those skills? So, how can we use this consciousness to then initiate self healing? So, there's lots of course, mind body practices that can help. And we know there's a lot of science behind the benefits of meditation and visualization and mindfulness practices as tools for self healing. And I've covered these in a lot of other episodes and with guests. But we know that meditation, visualization, mindfulness, powerful tools for self-healing. That's why I incorporate them in my program, the Living Pain-Free program. It's part of my success path, doing meditation, visualization, and mindfulness practices. So these all help tap into your innate healing abilities, because we're creating part of what we're creating beliefs, we're creating with visualization, we're creating visions of ourself as healed. The mind, we know, a lot of times can't tell the difference between something we're visualizing in our head and an actual thing that we're seeing and doing in the world. Athletes have known this for years. That's why visualization has been a big practice of that. So these mind body tools are really helpful. And it's also helpful to cultivate self-awareness. So this is another thing that I talk about a lot, being aware that you're aware, especially our thoughts. Our thoughts have the power to change our biology, right? Our thoughts about, medication, our thoughts about an illness or the physical condition we're experiencing, our thoughts about anything really change real world outcomes. And so we have, they say, 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Impossible to manage all of them, right? But maybe we can tune in. Maybe we can tune in several times a day for awareness. What am I thinking about right now? What am I feeling right now? So being really aware of what's your basic state of mind, because our thoughts really are habits, and so we want to create new habits, and that's where intention comes in and focus. So other tools that I have for intention and focus is, let's create a change in thoughts, and let's change our thoughts with using tools to help focus our mind. And so I'm a real proponent of affirmations as a tool to reprogram the mind, because one way we can reprogram the mind is through repetition. We know this, right? That's why people do training in things. We do training for repetition to teach a skill over and over and over again. In this case, with thoughts, we're planting the seeds of a thought over and over and over again until through repetition it becomes habit. That doesn't mean you're never going to have thoughts stray again. You will, but with a greater awareness skill, you notice them sooner. You notice when your thoughts are straying and you catch yourself sooner. And so you bring yourself back into alignment with conscious self healing. And so let's talk about sort of coming at this with an open mind and patience and compassion. So once we get our beliefs on board, then and we have awareness, we're constantly tuning in, we're reprogramming our thoughts through repetition and using other tools. We want to practice self-compassion by not like getting hard on ourselves when our thoughts do stray, or when we don't do the things that once we know we need to be doing for self-conscious self-healing. We want to be kind and compassionate with ourselves. So speaking to yourself as a dear friend, or your biggest fan would speak to you, or your number one champion would speak to you, how would that person speak to you? Speak to yourself like that as well, with loving kindness, compassion, and also um, have some support around you. So we also know that healing outcomes are always better with support. So have a look at what kind of community do you have around you. What kind of community people do you have, a support network around you? Do you have people that are supporting you in your self healing, or do you have people that are hindering your self healing? Maybe you might want to reevaluate who you're letting into your circle. It doesn't mean you have to cut people off entirely, but if you want to um, be a conscious self healer, it's a lot easier when you've got people around you that aren't countering that effort. So have a look at the community around you. That's why I have a living pain free community, is because, well, we need community, we need support, and in community we can heal. I see it all the time in my program. And then you want to also celebrate progress. So along the way, we know this from neuroscience that the brain really loves rewards, right? And so we want to celebrate our successes along the way. Notice where you're having improvements, even if it's small, tiny micro improvements recognized will help you keep making more improvements, because your brain will pay attention to, first of all, you're recognizing it. So you're saying, this is important. I'm recognizing and it's important. And so then your brain starts paying attention to other things and supports, because we have so much information. The brain, through the reticular activating system, can only pay attention to what it thinks it's important for you to know, and it pays attention to what's important for you to know based on what you tell it is important. So if you're recognizing that even tiny baby steps that are taking you to better health, your brain's going to start paying attention. You will make better decisions. You'll notice things that support you in your environment. Things will pop up, snag your attention, and then that will help you on your healing journey. So you're using that consciousness to help you self heal. And so we want to, in order to make this sustainable, we need to integrate it into our life too. So we want to integrate it by creating new habits. So one of the things I really love, and I know you've probably heard me talk about this if you've been following along, is how important mornings are. Because if we're talking about changing habits, obviously it's going to take a bit of effort. And how you start the day affects the rest of your day. Plus, I talk about those wins. When you do a new habit first thing in the morning, then you're already getting the win. right? My mother used to say, I feel all virtuous now when you do something great first thing in the morning. You get that win first thing in the morning, and then that's done, right? It's so many times I've trust me, I've made these mistakes. I didn't always do things in the morning, and sometimes I still don't. And then when I don't get it done, the day gets away from you and you don't get something done. So those mindfulness practice I've been talking about, the mindfulness or meditation or whatever you're doing for these practices to help you be a conscious self-healer, do them in the morning. I love my morning routine. If you want to download my free guide, it's at thewellnessengineer.com/mornings. So it's I call it my 3M morning routine. It's a 3-part morning routine that incorporates some mindfulness, some movement, which is really important for healing, and also mindset. So getting your mind set up for the rest of the day to help those 60 to 80,000 thoughts come more online with healing. All right. So that is kind of a big overview, but I want to give you a little tangible takeaway practice. So, little practical application. And this is something I did on my journey as I was healing when I realized I was having some limiting beliefs on my healing and I wanted to consciously change it. So, it's a letting go of limiting beliefs exercise. So, you want to get out a journal, piece of paper. I don't know. I like a journal because I like to be able to reflect back on it. In fact, I'm going to read to you what I wrote in my own journal after I tell you about it. So on the page, put 2 lines there. So you've got 3 columns, 2 vertical lines, 3 columns. At the top of the first column on the left, write limiting belief. In the middle column at the top, write opposite belief. So what would be the opposite to that limiting belief? And then in the third column, evidence of opposite belief. Okay, so evidence. So your mind will search for evidence of whichever thought you believe. These can become 2 completely opposite thoughts, and your mind will search for evidence to support both of them. It could just as easily support the limiting one or support the opposite belief. So that's, kind of crazy for our mind, but we've got a culture full of all kinds of things. So your mind can find either. So what we want to do is build up evidence for the opposite of your limiting belief, because that will help get our mind on board, get the conscious mind on board, helping you be a conscious self-healer. So here's an example. I'm going to open it up. My example of what I wrote in my own journal. So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 2016. And if you look up, just Google rheumatoid arthritis, and I was told there is no cure. Get progressively worse. The only treatment is medication. And so my example is, as a limiting belief, there is no cure for rheumatoid arthritis. And if I went searching on Google, if I listened to the medical experts, right? I was told there is no cure. So that would have been evidence for that, right? Instead, I said, okay, what's the opposite? So, I mean, the opposite would be there is a cure. But what I turned it into was I am completely healthy and strong in my body, because that's the ultimate outcome, right? I my outcome was for me, not just there is a cure for rheumatoid arthritis. My outcome, or my new, like, empowering decision, is that I am completely healthy and strong in my body. So the evidence supporting that new decision, or the new or the opposite belief, was I could see that I was getting healthier. I wasn't getting worse. I was getting healthier with the changes that I was making, shifting my beliefs, but also taking action, right? I wasn't just shifting my beliefs and waiting for health to follow me. I was also doing things to support my health. So in that, I could see I am getting healthier and stronger. And then I kept looking for beliefs. So another one was, there are many stories of radical remissions. So I started seeking out stories of healing. And I found, if you haven't seen the Heal documentary, that was a great one. I started, I spoke to other people that were look seeking out stories of people that had healed, and now I speak for people who are doing those stories because I want other people to be able to find the evidence that rheumatoid arthritis is reversible. And I started doing a lot of reading. Right, I read all kinds of Joe Dispenza. Wim Hof has helped lots of people with rheumatoid arthritis. There are lots of stories, and others, many others. And so I started doing all this reading, and I believed that it was totally curable. And I also believe that the number one person who had to be on board was me. I knew that it had to be my mind. So it's not just a matter of there are other people and I'm going to seek out someone else to fix me. The thing I really, really want you to get is that the person that heals you is you. Yes, you can have other people on your team to assist you, but I want you to feel that empowerment that comes from you, that it's really you. So no matter, even if you, so it might even be that you believe in a practitioner and they do the work and you do get well, but then you're constantly seeking someone else, right? I want to flip the narrative and for you to understand that it's self-healing. All healing is self-healing. And so, really, it does come from you. And I just invite you to give this a try. So, my one thing, so I was talk about what's one thing you could do today that's going to shift your body into healing. I would say do that exercise that I talked about. Those 3 columns, write out what your limiting belief is right now about whatever it is you're dealing with your health. Then write the opposite or something along those lines that's going to feel empowering for you because our feelings matter. Make sure that that opposite statement is one that, like, just gets you right in the heart. Like, I am healthy and strong. If I just wrote down there is a cure for rheumatoid arthritis, it's still like wah wah out there, right? But when I said I am healthy and strong, that just got me inside. And so look for a statement, write a statement that does that for you. And then look for evidence that would support that, right? Okay, so I've mentioned a couple of things for you. So I did talk about, well, let's just kind of review. We talked about the placebo effect and that it's real, it's documented. And that's when you're not even consciously being aware of using your mind to control your biology. And then we talked about how you can use your mind to control your biology, different kind of overarching guidelines. And I shared with you the exercise to do, and that is your 3 columns, writing down the limiting belief, the opposite, and then evidence of the opposite belief. And yeah, I want you to know that this has worked for me. It's worked for many, many other people. And I want you to know that this is a great step to help you in your self healing. All healing is self healing. And I'd love to hear what you think about this. Don't forget, you can download my free mornings guide. So it's at thewellnessengineer.com/mornings. I've also got an audio bundle that you might like as well. It's got 3 audios you can listen to over and over again to help reprogram your mind. So it's thewellnessengineer.com/audio bundle. I've also got 108 affirmations in there and a guided meditation for healing. So if you are listening to this podcast on your podcast app, you might want to check out my YouTube channel at Jane Hogan Health, or you could search at the Wellness Engineer and see the other videos that I've got there. Or if you're watching on YouTube, maybe you might want to sign up and subscribe to my podcast on whatever you listen to podcasts on, either Spotify or Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio. I've got some amazing guests coming up in the next little while, but also I've interviewed so many amazing guests. So go back and have a look at other shows, see what piques your interest. There's so much here for you to support you on your self-healing, and I look forward to continuing to support you. So leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find this podcast. It also helps me get more amazing guests when they see that my content is popular and they want you to hear what they've got to say too. So thank you so much for watching or listening. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you again next week.